get some. Use your resources, mind over mix up. Yeah, it's that mind over mix up. It's that mind over mix up.
Hey everyone, it's Aria here, bringing another episode of the Mind Over Mix-Up podcast. At this point, the few listeners there might be wondering what's been going on with the other members of the Mind Over Mix-Up group. They've been working on their own projects as of late, and I've more or less decided to leave them be to focus on their own goings-on. With that said, they're all still willing, time permitting anyway, to do podcasts and videos for the channel, and there will be more content from them as time goes on. Now that we're up to speed on that, we'll get into today's topic, as well as other things beyond. This podcast subject has to do with creating combos for fighting games. We're not just talking about figuring out what your character's B&Bs are. I also want to talk about some of what goes into making combos for style. First thing you want to do, and this sounds all sorts of obvious, but it has to be said, is to find a character that you're comfortable with on a base level. While it isn't uncommon for people to dig into characters they may not touch normally, it's way easier for you to figure out what makes a character tick when you feel comfortable with how they work. Once you've done that though, then you can get into figuring out basics, and you can move forward from there. About those basics, I think they can be boiled down to bullet points. Figure out your character's buttons. Do your best to figure out the range and recovery of everything you have in regards to normals. Some people get really caught up on what special moves their character has, but your normals are the essential puzzle pieces for everything in the vast majority of cases. If you're playing a game with Gatlings or chain combos, figure out which buttons chain together. Can you go from standing medium to crouching medium, standing light to crouching heavy? If the game promotes links, do certain hits recover quickly enough to let you hit the opponent multiple times in succession by using the right buttons? Try to figure out how everything flows. Next, when it comes to both normals and special moves, try to figure out what effects these moves have when you hit them in various ways. The BlazBlue series is a great game to really flex this particular aspect, as there are a variety of things that can happen based on how or when you hit certain moves. Some hits force your opponent into a crouching position. Others cause them to go into a crumple state or a slide, things like that. You also want to experiment with counter hits to see if certain moves let you land links in situations where comboing would otherwise be hard or even impossible. When you've taken time to figure all that out, the next step is figuring out where the system's limitations are. Depending on the game, and the character for that matter, this can give the player either a little room or a lot of room. How much pushback is there as a combo stretches on? If you're juggling an opponent, how many times can you hit them with a certain button before the game just says, hey, cut that out? How many ground or wall bounces can you do before the game limits you? Can you OTG more than once? Let's use Power Rangers Battle for the Grid as an example. So typically in that game, it lets you OTG an enemy once. After that, your next OTG attempt, it'll result in you getting you'll get the hit, but with the opponent staying floored. If you have assists though, you can use those to create OTGs for you because they aren't stuck under that same limitation, and they can OTG even if you already have. When you figure out your limitations, you can then learn how to build your combos around them to either maximize your style or your damage. The next part is probably the hardest part for some to get the hang of, but it can result in some of the nuttiest looking combo stuff if you're skilled with it. Look into your moves, normals, specials, and so on, and try your best to figure out how and where they hit the enemy. Some moves have absolutely massive hitboxes that let you do some really jank looking combos if you know how to position yourself, so it's always worth experimenting to see how something looks and how it acts. You might have a move, or even several, that hit behind your character, or above them, or below if you're airborne, and you might not even know it. These are just what I feel are the base steps when it comes down to combo creation for both practical and stylish applications. Hopefully it'll help some people out with their combo stuff. As far as other goings on, I saw news earlier that there's going to be a sequel to Judgment in the works. For those who don't know, Judgment was a game made by Ryuga Gotoku Studio, the same people who made the Yakuza series. I personally love Judgment a ton, so I'm actually pretty excited and curious about what Yagami and Kaito are going to get up to in that one. They say the story is going to be darker, which that's saying a lot because the story in the original Judgment was already pretty dark, like really dark, so I'll be curious about that for sure. Also, there's the fact that the PS3's PSN store, as well as the Vita's, I think PSP's as well. I don't remember entirely the details, but I'll be sure to get a link that can be left in the description. Those stores will be shutting down in a matter of a couple of months, so if there's anything you want to get your hands on from those stores, you probably want to get your hands on those as quickly as possible, or re-download, or whatever else if you still have those consoles. I think that about covers it for news, though. Enough rambling out of me. Hopefully you all took something away from this short little podcast episode. The next will be coming soon, all things willing. In the meantime, if you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, because more will definitely be coming in the future. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay awesome.